Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Laura Porreca. Laura Porreca opted for a life of adventure rather than a life of maintenance. Her credentials run off the end of her business card, but she rarely mentions them because in the real world, it's not what you have accomplished, but what you do with it that counts. You will find her wherever people need to use critical thinking skills the most. Welcome to the podcast, Laura.
Hello, and thank you for having me on.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on and introduce you to everyone. And, we met in Vegas a few weeks ago when I was there speaking, and I just can tell that you help a lot of people with what you do, and I wanted to share what you're doing. So thank you for being on.
Thanks.
And just so other people can get to know you, why don't you tell us about you, how you started out, how you got to be doing what you're doing now?
All right, I will. This is a funny story. When I was 5 years old, my mother bought me a chalkboard and put it on the wall in my bedroom and handed me a pack of colored chalk. And it was the beginning of the end. I started lining up the teddy bears and teaching them. And my little brother would come in the bedroom and I would teach him. And when the neighbors came over to play, can you guess what we played? School, right? And I was the teacher. So when I got older and was headed to college, my mom remembered that. And I thought I was going to be a marine scientist. And my mom said, honey, take a few education classes, just put them in your back pocket because you never know. And so I did, because I started as an undeclared major. And then I thought, okay, I'll take a few education classes. And I was hooked. I realized that my passion was in reaching and teaching people. So my first assignment was second grade classroom in Hialeah, Florida. And I remember walking on the campus, so excited to teach reading, writing, math, science, social studies, and my students could not speak English. I was like, oh no, everything I've learned, how do I do this? So that became my fascination. That started the whole thing, my fascination with connection and communication. I went on, of course, to teach all grade levels and to be National Board Certified, Teacher of the Year, all those accolades. And then when you're really good at something, what do? They elevate you, right? They take you out of what you're really good at. So I became a trainer for the new teachers to the district, the 5th largest school district. And then when you're really good at that, I became train the trainer. So it was a natural transition for me to leave the field of education. And when I moved into business, to be a speaker, trainer, coach on leadership and communication. And that's how I made that transition. But through the whole thing, it's always been a love of sharing knowledge and empowering people to think.
And that is so important that we think these days, because now we want to be flexible. We need to be able to look and see what's available to us, what, opportunities, possibilities are open, and actually be able to organize them into thoughts and then take action, because things are changing very fast.
Right. And it seems as though most people get on a track of repetition and they don't think. Here's a cute joke just for our listeners. They say that 2% of the population actually think. Imagine that. And 3% of the population think that they think. And the other 95% would rather die than think.
Oh, no.
And really, it's true. Oftentimes when you're speaking to someone, you can tell they're just on that they're in that mode of just do what you're used to doing, habit, and they don't even think. When you hopped in the car last and then you arrive somewhere, sometimes you think to yourself, how did I get here? I wasn't even paying attention, right? You're on autopilot. So really, the critical thinking skills are so necessary right now. And whatever age you are, even my children, they're both adults now, 21 and 33 years old. But the two of them, I'm constantly saying little things to make sure that they're aware. It's all about being not just confident and creative, but aware. The more aware you are, the more you'll be able to use those critical thinking skills.
Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for being more aware?
I think that you have to first decide. A lot of people skip that stage. They say, okay, we're going to do whatever. And they just kind of push it on everybody. Okay, here's what we're doing, right? Here's the new initiative. And the real beginning is when you decide. If you don't decide, someone's pushing something on you, if it's not your own self-determinism, you're not going to do it. And even when we think it is, like we say, I'll start this new project. If you didn't really decide, if you didn't really take that moment, and I bet you know in your life, the time where you decided you were going to do podcasts, you decided you'd be a host. And that was the beginning, not like, well, maybe I will. Well, I'll tell people I am, but I don't know if I really am. I remember sitting in my home office one day, and I had made the decision that no matter what, I was going to make my business work. I had gotten a paycheck for 26 years, 28 years. And so to wear that hat of being my own boss, the hat of sales and marketing, I remember having struggles, doing really good and then bad and then really good. And I remember the moment that I said to myself, whether anyone helps me or not, I have to act like that guy that was on Mars. Remember that movie? Matt Damon, he's on Mars and he has to get off, and it's him, no one else. He has to do it himself. And when I made that moment of commitment where I decided, I will do this, be careful, because when they say, be bold, mighty forces will come to your aid, it's true. So I would say that first step is decision. I decide from now on, I'm aware. I'm not asleep when the commercials are on TV. I'm not going to leave the TV on when I'm sleeping at night. I'm going to be aware of everything that's going on around me, situational awareness, but also the most important critical thing is I'm aware of my thoughts. I am aware of what's going through my head. In education, we call it metacognition. Think about what you're thinking about. How many people don't do that? They just think, or worse, this is a poor position indeed. People think, I can't help it. I just think these bad thoughts and then I'm sad, or whatever the thoughts are, not recognizing you have to own your own mind. You have to come to a place of awareness where you say, I'm at the helm. I'm the one taking control.
Mm-hmm. So everybody has those days when it's just like, it's a bad day, 3 bad things happen in a row, and you're doing your best to put the smile on and be happy, but down inside, you're just like sinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do we get control of our minds in that situation to, regardless of what's happening, be able to put ourselves in a state where we can actually thrive?
Well, I'll tell you the true answer, and then I'll tell you what to do if you just need to survive because you're like already going downhill at 80 miles an hour and you don't know what to do. Okay, so the true first answer is before you get that bad, you're aware of what you're thinking and you catch yourself. So if you can catch yourself before you're feeling all depressed and horrible, that's the key. And there are tricks to doing that. One of the tricks is gratitude. Right? We've been told this a million times, but people don't listen. If you wake up in the morning and think, what am I grateful for? Albert Einstein said, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And when he would wake up, he would count his steps into the bathroom and he would say 100 things, 100 times, I am grateful, I am thankful. And he would think in his mind of what he was thankful for. Because when you start doing that, of course, it's going to put you on the right track. Mm-hmm. Now, what if you didn't start out positive because something went wrong and you forgot to catch yourself? And by now you're like ready to just, we make a joke here in Vegas, in Las Vegas, we say, jump off Hoover Dam. Now we shouldn't because it's not funny, but we kind of say like, all right, I'm just ready to go jump off Hoover Dam. And we're doing it in jest. We do not mean it. However, it just shows that you're feeling like nothing else will work. I might as well just check out. So when you are at that point, honestly, the best thing really to do is take a nap or go to sleep, because while you're sleeping, you can reset. Mm-hmm. And when you stub your toe in the morning, then something else bad happens and something else. It's like you're on that spiraling effect. The earlier you catch it, the more you can catch it. The further it goes down, it's like, oh my gosh. Have you ever had a friend who was so depressed and you tried to help them out, but nothing seemed to work? That's because they let it get too far. And people can get in a habitual pattern of being sad. That can be their default. If your default is, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I think I'll eat some worms, right? And it's easy to be there because that's what you're used to. Then along comes this happy person and says, hey, life is great, come with me. And it doesn't even feel comfortable to them. Here's an example everyone can relate to. You go to a restaurant, the table next to you has teenagers. They're laughing and joking, and it bothers you. If it bothers you, it's because you're too far away from that. They're all happy and giddy, and maybe you're just kind of just a little bit sad, or just kind of, like not happy or sad, just in the middle. And it's just too far away. It bothers you, right?
That's a great distinction. That really is, to see how we're reflected in other people.
Yeah. If you're happy, you're attracted to other happy people. If you're sad, misery loves company.
I love that. And I love that what you said about sleep. That is just the best thing. What I love about sleep is, first of all, you get all rested, but second of all, you wake up and it's a new day. It's brand new. Everything is clear. You're starting over, new beginnings when you get out of bed. And you can get out of bed and complain, or you can get out of bed, like you said, be like Einstein and start saying what you're thankful for.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I go, thanks that I woke up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it helps to have a little mantra, to say something like, what a glorious day filled with love, opportunity, and potential. If you say that every time you open your eyes, you're telling yourself, have a good day. You're becoming aware of what's good. Here's another good example of why that works. Your mind goes to what it already knows. So when I was pregnant, all I saw was pregnant people. When I was a teenager and I had a boyfriend who had a white van, all I saw was white vans, right? So what you focus on expands, and you can use that. You can say, I'm going to decide to focus on good things. If you are mad at someone and you notice something bad about them, you're going to start noticing more and more bad unless you catch yourself and say, wait a minute. I choose, right? I decide that I'm going to take control of my mind and I'm going to tell it what to do. My mind isn't going to just go off willy-nilly. Think of it like there's the parent who raises their child to have a little discipline, to think about delayed gratification, right? And to be respectful of others. Then there's the child who doesn't get any of that direction. They're left to run willy-nilly everywhere. Matter of fact, they get sometimes bad direction. And that child has a much harder time getting control of their mind because it's been let to just kind of run crazy. Now that's different than the creative process, because sometimes you'll find, hey, we can have kids that have had a horrible upbringing, but they're so creative because that part of their mind is tapped into the freedom of creation. However, it's harder usually for those kids to focus and to be disciplined enough to give their mind a direction and to follow it.
So those two kids need to get together and start a business.
Right.
One can be the creative and one can run the business.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard for one person to wear all the hats, right?
It really is. It really is. Now, I know you work with people also in communication as far as just relationships. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? About, first of all, owning our own mind so that we can actually have a nice relationship. It's when we don't. I've heard someone say that when you're not being yourself is when you have conflict with your spouse or your brother or sister or whatever. You have conflict when you're not being yourself, but when you're actually fully being yourself, then the communication is open.
Now that brings up the question of who is your true self? Are you the programs you learned when you were little, or are you the person thinking about what you're thinking about, right? Are you the beingness that's aware of this being, right? And that's the hard part for a lot of people. They get, like when I was a kid, I'd play with the Barbie dolls and I'd be like, Barbie, you forgot to do this. And Ken would be like, well, Barbie, we got to do that. And I would be so involved in it that it was like real. And I remember my mom coming into the room once and saying, that's so funny. I think God thinks that way of us sometimes, like we're doing all this stuff, but really we're just so wrapped up in what we're doing. We don't back up and take the bigger picture, right? Like, oh, dear Lord, which dress should I wear today? I don't care. You got 20 of them. Pick one. That's your choice. So yes, relationships are a big thing in business, but here's the trick. when you learn how to relate better in business, it helps you in your personal life. If you take a course on how to be better in personal relationships, it helps you at work. Nowadays, everything is mixed. It's all intermingled. We carry our cell phone around with us and we make phone calls, or we receive work phone calls in the evening, on the weekend. Everything is mixed in together. So learning in any area will help you with the other. Now, with relationships, what I found the best is to start with tactics and then go to strategies and stuff, because people need a quick fix sometimes. And if you teach them a few little tips and tactics, then they feel a little more confident. And then you can start backing up and doing a broader picture learning. Oftentimes I do the opposite with business. I say, okay, we're going to do the strategy. We're going to create the systems that make your business work. Then later on, I'll give you a few tips and techniques and tactics that you can use every day on the job. But with relationships, honestly, a lot of it has to do with we're not thinking, right? We're unconscious. We're like, whenever someone's mean to me, I am, now you might say nice back. 90% of the people might say, I'm mean back because they deserve it, right? You have these concepts in your mind and you just default to them because you're not thinking. So with relationships, I'll start with tactics like fair roads and fine weather. That's a good one. Imagine, this is big for a lot of people who have exes and they have children that they have to pass them back and forth. Or even on the job, like I said, it works in both. So let's say you have to talk to someone at work, one of your colleagues or a ex-spouse, and you just don't want to argue, but you know it's going to come to an argument. Do what I call fair roads and fine weather. And we have to practice this because it doesn't come natural until it does. And then that's your pattern, right? So you decide in advance, what are you going to say? What are the main points? It might be, hi, how you doing? Listen, like you don't even give them a chance to answer. Hi, how you doing? Listen, great. Johnny needs you to pick him up from swimming at 7 p.m. Okay, got it? Good, bye. So fair roads, fine weather, no time for I'm going to get you and then you're going to get me, right? You choose in advance. And it's hard for people. When I had students practice it in my college classrooms, they thought they knew it until they had to practice it. And then all of a sudden they get lost. They get sucked into that conversation because they're used to it. Mm-hmm. But if you decide to use that little tip of, okay, I'm going to use fair roads and fine weather, you'll be quick, diplomatic, get the message across, and you're gone. And you haven't hurt anyone's feelings because you're nice about it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. If you have that choice to be able to think about it before you get into a situation, for sure.
And also keeping the emotion out of it. You're going to say, this is the information that has to get transmitted, right? He has to get picked up at 7 o'clock at the swimming pool, whatever the information is. And so you decide in advance, I'm going to be pleasant. I'm going to get the information across, and then I'm getting out of there.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's other situations where you're actually living with people. So when you have a situation where you're living with people and there's conflict, do you then employ strategies or tips or?
Oh, yeah. This is a funny story. I had my mom read my Better Relationship Guide, which you'll put it in the notes, right? The access for people to get it. It's really good. I was having her look over it because she was an English major. I said, hey, do you want to edit it first before I send it off? And she read it and she called me, Laura, so that's how you do when I go off on it, And I was like, uh-oh, I've been found out. Because these techniques work with whoever. Here's a great one for the people you live with. Okay, let's say you have to get along with the people you live with. But for example, that maybe one of your family members is very judgmental. You know this because every time they come into the kitchen, if you're doing something, you will drop something or break something, and the reason is you get nervous because they're looking at you and judging you. So you decide in advance, you say, okay, I'm going to try Laura's technique called Name It. These are all in the book. You're going to love this book. It's only 33 pages. If you don't have time to read 33 pages and learn 10 or 12 tips, then nobody can help you, right? So name it is, you don't say it out loud, but in your mind, you name it when someone does something that's a pattern of theirs, or even if it's not, even if it's someone you meet at the store and they look at you and say something that's judgmental. In your mind, you say to yourself, oh, that's interesting. He's judging me. So I call it a third point. There's you, the other person, and then this third point. If you are just looking at them, you can get angry at them. But if you're looking at the third point, it becomes unemotional. It's like, oh, they're being, this is what they always do, right? We expect people to magically change, but that's what they do. And if you have decided that you love people, you consider I teach people that their clients, their customers are the beloved. If you teach that, and if you do it yourself, then if you love someone, of course you're not going to always think of the worst or whatever. You're going to be like, they were somebody's 3-year-old child once. They were 3, and now they're whatever age, and for whatever reason they're going through these things. But my control is over me and my mind, and so I can say, oh, look, they're judging. Isn't that interesting? And I remember at one point in a prior marriage when I had to sit on my hands and bite my lips because I didn't want to engage. And oftentimes the goal of that angry person is to engage you. They're upset about something, they want to engage you. And so if you refuse, what happens is people deselect. They go find someone else who wants to play with them. And then it's a glorious day indeed.
Yeah, when they just kind of go away, right?
Yeah.
No
And it happens. It really does. They will disengage if you don't fuel the fire.
Exactly. So I know you said you started out in the school system and everything, and I come from a family where there's several teachers. I never chose that because I couldn't imagine being locked in a room with kids all day. And I love kids. I specialize in pediatrics, but not like that. So, but I mean, there is so much, just taking that as an example, because this can happen in any company or business. But I mean, there's so much going on as far as people talking about this person, or the front office doing one thing, the teachers feeling another way, then the teachers are kind of in between the parents and the principal. And let's say, if you had the best advice you could tell a teacher right now for communicating and just staying in good communication with almost both sides, because they're coming from two sides, what would you tell them?
I know. I think the main thing is being able to step back from that situation and having a goal. So most people, believe it or not, enter a conversation without a goal. They just, like I said, they're not aware, they're not thinking. They'll just like, oh, there's a meeting and they're gossiping over here, and they just walk in. Instead of, I'm walking in the meeting with the goal of collaborating. Or I'm walking into my boss's office with the goal of sharing information about what I've been doing lately to solve this problem. Whatever it is, you decide in advance so that when you go in, you've got something to focus on. That stuff that's going on, it's kind of like the background music, right? You choose not to pay attention because you say to yourself, wait a minute, that's not my goal. That doesn't fit in with where I am. It's about focus, really, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying. Is about focus. Just like you said earlier, whatever you focus on expands. So you're focusing on the desired results.
Yeah, your goal in that meeting. What is your goal? Even with business, I did a business training yesterday, and we were learning storytelling in sales. Well, they were learning it. And so I had them look first. What is the goal with this conversation? Is it to close a sale? Is it to help your customers resolve a problem? You first have to know what the goal is, then you choose your story. And even if it's the same story, you choose how to tell it. So you've got to know your goal. My goal here on your podcast is to give your listeners enough tips, techniques, ideas, things to make them think so that they can be better off when they leave than when they turned it on.
Exactly. So why don't you talk more about how you work with business owners?
Okay, this is fun for me. Critical thinking. So many business owners are so busy, right? They're in the middle of it. Sometimes with entrepreneurs and small business owners, it's kind of like they bought a job because they're there 24/7, or at least 5 days a week for 10 hours a day. And so they can get so in the middle of everything that it's so nice to have an outside trusted advisor to come in and say, have you thought about this? Or let's step back and look at this. Or here's some industry trends that are going on. Let's see how that might affect the business. And it's asking the right questions, because oftentimes people want to come in, and if they're a consultant, they want to tell people what to do. If they're a coach, they want to like pat you on the back and make sure you're accountable. And if they're a mentor, they kind of want to say, well, I did it, so let me show you how to do it because you're not there yet. But the truth is, the trusted advisor is more of what they need to be. If I need to collaborate with you right now, I sit down right next to you and we get to work. If I need to consult, I turn towards you and share some valuable ideas of, you can do this, this, or this. Which one do you want to do, right? And we always look at the goal. And for most businesses, it's the return on investment. It's how can I create more revenue? How can I get my leaders to think critically so that they won't make stupid mistakes and cost my company lots of money? How much money is wasted on goofy meetings that nothing gets done, right? Because no one's thinking critically. They're not saying, this could be in a memo. Put this in a memo and send it to everyone. Don't make them come and sit here. Why are they doing that? Because we always did. Because we always did it on Monday morning for 45 minutes. Like, that's not a good reason. What's the goal of your meeting? For the 45 minutes to go by so I can say I led the staff? No, that is not a good goal. And when you get people thinking, it's a habit. Once you get to where you enjoy using your noggin, then you want to keep it sharp. And here's the example. People that leave a fulfilling job or business, and they're so used to thinking, and then they go lay on the beach for a few weeks in Fiji, and then they're like, I got to come out of retirement. I'm going crazy. I want to think, right? Compared to the person who goes to work, get up in the morning, go to work, goes home, stops at the convenience store, picks up the 6-pack of beer, goes home, watches TV, drinks the beer, the next day, repeat, the next day, repeat. That person, when they retire, they're like, yay, I don't have to work anymore. But their mind is so dead already. You wonder, their body's moving around, but nothing is really creative coming out of them. So when you're used to thinking, or let's say the person who, yes, they have a 9 to 5, however, they dream, they close their eyes. I can't help it, but I have this gift of coming up with this piece of a song that fits in with, so bear with me. I close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting there for me, that I call my own. And there are people, work 9 to 5, but they have a vision or a dream. They have a backyard garden, or they're an artist and they paint with their free time, or they have their grandkids come over and they're the best grandma in the world. So people who do have boring jobs can still have an exciting life. Doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur or you have to have time freedom. You can still do what you got to do at the time being. And if it's not creative, and pretty much you can always infuse some creativity on the job. But if not, if it's a very rote job that doesn't have any creativity, you still have your mind. You can still do things in the rest of the hours or be planning, before you get off. So really, it's about choosing to use your mind, and don't let that go. How many of us have heard the person who's on their deathbed says, I wish I would have done more, tried more things, been more daring. But when we're here and we're the one who needs to be daring, because 20, 30 years from now, we'll be that person, or we won't, would you rather say, I sent a message to a dear friend of mine that I kind of want to push him in a certain direction because I can see his bright future. And I said, do you want on your deathbed to say, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did?
Mm-hmm. That is so important. So a lot of times people who are very successful, they have like a morning practice or something they do each day that's kind of the same, that gets them set up for that day, or some way they end their day. Do you have any of those practices that you'd be open to sharing?
I do. My morning, and I know I'll preface it with that every couple of years I change it up a little bit, but right now I've got the sweet spot. So I need to get better at the exercise part, because I usually do the first part outside on a walk. But even if you can't, let's say the weather's bad or you fell into a bad habit, you can still do it without the exercise part. So in a perfect world, I do the first part while I'm walking, and it's my I ams, because I discovered if I say I am whatever, my brain doesn't know the difference. My brain says, oh, she is. And it looks for ways that I can be whatever that is. So I start my morning. I am, here's a cute one. I'm sexy, slender, svelte, vivacious, healthy, and strong. So I might say that one, or I might say, I am smart, I am helpful, I am loving, I am kind. Whatever it is, I'll get a rhythm going with some mantra, some sort of, and it's different every day, except for a while I was doing the sexy, slender, svelte, vivacious, healthy, and strong, because it just kind of went together real well. Now, if I can't walk, I'll just write it in my journal. I am, and I own it, because if we really are something, that doesn't mean that it's just this little part of us. That means that it is us. It's in us. It comes out with whether we want to or not. So first part, my I ams. Then gratitude. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have time freedom to do what I want to do with the customers and clients I want to work with when I want to, right? I say that. And even if someone, I remember when I was very sad and wasn't feeling like that, and I would wake up and say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a soft pillow. So you can find something to say, even in the worst of times, you can say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have water to drink, because there are people in the world who do not have access to clean water, right? So there's, nobody can use the excuse, I'm the victim, right? I don't have anything. Look around. Are you breathing? I'm so happy and grateful that I can take a breath every few seconds and not have to worry that I'm going to die, right? All right. So first the I ams, then the what I'm grateful for, then my dreams. But I write them in present tense. And for the longest time, I love your background. For the longest time, every morning, one of them was, I wake up in an environment where I can go out to the ocean and take a swim. Each day if I want to. I mean, I don't really want to swim every day, but each day I can go out and swim in the ocean. That paints such a beautiful picture for me. Whether I ever get to live that lifestyle or not, I feel good right now thinking about it. So who cares? Too many people get wrapped up in, but what if I never do? Stop already. You are in your mind. You are thinking it and feeling it. Think about when you first fell in love. How that felt. Just thinking about it, you can feel it again. So thinking about being on the beach and being able to swim or swim with the dolphins makes me happy. So why not think of that? So first thing, my I ams, hopefully with a little exercise. Second thing, what I'm grateful for. Third thing, my dreams, and I'll usually write 5 of them. And then these two last part, the last part are 2 things that are so critical. I should charge people a couple $100 for each of these. I never do though. It's always free because it was given to me free. Think of 3 people that bug you and send them love. So I'll stop and think, okay, who bugs me? And here's the funny thing. After a while of doing that, you'll wake up and you'll go, I can't think of anyone. And then you think of yourself. I bug myself. I was mad at myself yesterday for doing X. And so you give yourself love. You send yourself love. You say, okay, send love. And while you're picturing yourself sending that love to those 3 people who bug you, or if you can't think of anyone, to yourself, you start to relax and feel more compassion for yourself, right? When I do it thinking about other people that bug me, I start to think, well, all the reasons why they are the way they are. And then I'm softer. I'm like, oh, if I had that childhood, I might be that way too. Or if I had been through their experiences or whatever, you think that. And then the final thing, so that was think of 3 people who bug you and send them love. Then the final thing is ask for guidance. You got to spend 5 minutes on this if you can. And all you do is you just get quiet and just listen. Now, this is hard for people, just like meditating is hard for people, because it pretty much is meditating, but not really. Don't say that. People get scared. If you say that, they're like, I can't do that. You can close your eyes and ask for guidance and then just listen. And stuff will pop in your mind and you might get a good idea to get you through the day. You might say, call mom. And you're thinking, why did I get that thought? And then you go and call mom, and it was a good thing. She needed to hear from you, whatever. So you just let yourself listen for the guidance. So often we run around with chasing our tails, and it's like a kid who keeps making the same mistake, but they never asked anybody, what's the right way to do this, right? So there's my morning routine that will set you free.
Oh, thank you. So, we've been talking about a lot of different things, but why don't we at this point tell people about you? How do they get in contact with you? And I know you have a podcast and you have services. So this is the place where you just kind of list and tell us, this is where you find me, and these are the things I have to offer, and how do I get them?
Okay. Well, if you want the Better Relationship Guide, you'll put that in the show notes, right? You can order that online, get it online the same day. And right now it's coming with a free half-hour consultation with me. So those are worth like $350. So that'd be really nice for someone to take advantage of. If you would like to hook up with me on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great place to find out all the business things I do, the speeches I give, right? So most business associates go to LinkedIn and find me, and you can put that in the notes as well. My website is 7dailyhabits.com. And if you go there, you can get 21 communication tips for free, just signing up for my newsletter. So your 21 communication tips, and they're really good. They're things like cueing, like when you arrive at a situation, you cue the other person for what's going to happen next. So really, really good little tips there. My YouTube channel is, I set it up initially to help my students at the college level. So there are lots of videos there about how to speak in front of people, how to improve your English so that it's fluent. So there's all kinds of stuff on there now, but we're getting ready to launch a new initiative, which is critical thinking videos. So look forward to those on the YouTube channel. Okay, YouTube channel, my website. And everything has something free for you, which is great for people in the beginning because they want to get to know you. I mean, some people right away say, I want to hire you. But most people say, I just really need a little bit of help. And so that's the good thing about modern times that wasn't when we were younger, right? We didn't have that. You had to go to the library, you had to pull out an encyclopedia. You couldn't just get something for nothing. But now you can find so much help online for free. So you get the 21 communication tips. You can go watch my videos on YouTube, go to my website, go to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, YouTube, website. What did I forget? The podcast. Listen to Laura. This is so funny, Dr. Kimberly. Yeah, on my podcast, I had initially 95% women over the age of 60 as my listeners in like 43 countries. I was like, that's interesting. Now it's down to 65% are over 60, and I've got, all ages in there, but it's still mostly women. It's like 90% or 86% women. So I guess my message resonates with women because let's face it, women care about connection. They're more verbal. And not that men can't, they could benefit from it, but that they're less likely to take the time to be that continual learner and to spend time improving in that area. We like to improve our strengths. So women are strong at that already, they're going to improve that.
That makes sense. Well, what for you, this is a personal question for you. Okay. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
I was born to give and receive love. I mean, that is my whole thing. That's why I teach the client is the beloved. And I teach my children it's all about care and concern for everyone. We are all one. People tend to think it's me against the world. No, you are the world. We are all one. This planet doesn't survive. We don't survive. So I think that the biggest thing for me is the ability to reach and teach people. I like to empower people to think, not so that they become dependent on me, because that's why I give them systems and things they can do when I'm not there, because I want them to go away and be able to continue that. So I would have to say that that's it for me. If you wanted to really punish me, you would put me somewhere where I couldn't be around any people. I couldn't help anyone. Nobody needed any help, although we do want the world to get there someday. I really just love helping people. helping them to help themselves. It's not about giving you a fish. It's about teaching you to fish, right? Then you're golden if you can just keep it up, right?
Beautiful. Thank you. And
You're
thanks for being on
welcome.
the podcast today and for all your wisdom and tips and strategies. It's been great.
Thank you. You're very, very welcome.
So I have one last question before we complete.
Okay.
What is your best advice for living an incredible, amazing life?
My best advice is to become a lifelong learner. If you decide, which for people like you and I, you probably don't even realize most people haven't made that decision. But if you decide you're a lifelong learner, you will be aware, you will be open to looking around to say, what do I need to know next? What am I missing? What can I improve upon? And so if you're that lifelong learner, you will have it. You can relax. You no longer need to worry because things will come to you. Remember what I said earlier, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Laura.
You're welcome.
Yep. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.